Hi everyone, and welcome to Brain Week. I'm very excited about the week ahead. There's been a fair bit of planning in this over the last kind of weeks, and it's kind of gone from one or two interviews to more interviews, which is really exciting. And I'm thrilled that my special guest is Dr. Lisa Mosconi on Wednesday, which would be fantastic. But I think everybody knows I've got a huge personal interest because of my mum, who actually turns 90 this week, which is very exciting. Just unfortunately, we do have the dementia to handle at the same time. But so for those reasons, it's an interest very close to my heart. And also, I think because we can see more of the research coming out, it's just changing every day in terms of how women are more impacted than men when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia. So I guess really my hope for the week for everyone that's tuning in, and there's been a fantastic take up, which is brilliant, is that really we share as much knowledge with everybody as we can. So that's why I've tried to get experts from all of the different areas that are really important when it comes to brain health. And a lot of it is I'll kind of talk you through what I'm doing myself, because obviously with my mum, I know that I've got to really mind my brain, and I think one of the things that you learn during the week is that if a parent has it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get Alzheimer's and dementia, but it is a little tick box that does, I guess, give you somewhat more susceptibility to it. So hopefully everyone enjoys the week ahead. I'm certainly really excited about it, and I'm just going to check now and see if Laura has joined us. Everybody, I presume, knows Laura, the fabulous pharmacist. She's a breath of fresh air, vivacious, just so willing to share her knowledge, and just an oracle when it comes to anything pharmacy related, life related, the whole shebang. So I'm just going to check now and see if she's tuned in yet. Okay, not yet. Okay, I did come on a little bit earlier because I wanted to have a chat just about the week ahead. So Laura will be joining shortly, and we are going to talk. Any conversation you have with Laura is a very honest conversation. So the conversation we're going to have today is very much around dementia, Alzheimer's, and also talking about the carers and carer support, which is an area that's close to both our hearts. And I think it's something I've learned over the last few months as I've been researching about brain health, that we really have to look after ourselves now. It's not, ideally it's maybe to be aware of it even when you're in your 20s and 30s. I'm 49, I'll be 50 in another few months. But there is no start date to this. It's literally just start now, start whenever you can. I'm just going to get Laura in with us now. So she'll be with us in a sec. So every piece of advice you're going to get this week, don't have any regret. Don't think you should have started earlier. It's start from today. Hey, Laura.
How's it going?
Good.
I'm trying to prop myself up here. I'm looking a bit low on the camera there.
Hang on a sec.
Oh, there we go. I'll prop myself up. So
I just realised I had my headphones on. So I was doing a little intro to the week, so I hope everybody heard it. I'm sure they did anyway.
I heard you. I heard you saying you're 50 next week. Or
yeah,
in a few
no,
months.
not next week. No, my mum is 90 this week.
Okay.
I'm 50 in a few months.
Okay.
So
we're going to talk about Alzheimer's, dementia, are we? And kind of brain health in general.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'd come at it from the Alzheimer's and dementia side, just from my practice in that. So is this going to be a Q&A or a discussion, or what way would we do it?
I'm sure there will be questions. I think really we want to just bear in mind that there's going to be a lot of people viewing it who won't be on Instagram. So I think as much as possible, if we can just talk. If questions come up, we can go through them. But I think it's really just to talk about our experience of Alzheimer's and dementia,
Okay.
and kind of what
Okay.
you see very much, Laura. I think what you see every day from the perspective of the pharmacy.
Yeah. Well, I suppose what I see as a pharmacist when I'm dealing with my patients, so as I would find, so this is just your general dementia. This isn't early onset, where people get it in their 50s, but your general dementia. But what I would find is that people are coming in and they're that little bit more confused about their medicines. They're asking, so they may get their medicines once a month, but then they start suddenly coming in maybe 3 or 4 times a month asking for specific medications that they say that they don't have, or we never gave them, or but it's that they're a little bit more confused. They're putting them in a place and they can't find them. They're a little bit disoriented. So that's the start of it. So the unfortunate thing is about Alzheimer's and dementia is once it kind of gets to the stage that people notice, albeit whether they're family, friends, pharmacists, other healthcare professionals, usually at that stage, the damage has started to be done in an irreversible way.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the only way that they can determine how bad it is in an autopsy where they actually look at the brain. It's very difficult to determine before someone has died how bad it is. So I know that you're talking about brain health this week and the importance of looking after your brain, and I suppose that's diet, exercise, sleep, all those things. But just insofar as when it comes to Alzheimer's, by the time the confusion sets in, a lot, as I said, a lot of the damage has been done. And the thing about the drugs that are specifically given to people with Alzheimer's and dementia, they are like, I mean, they're considered to, you know, modestly help. Now, a modest is said very, like, that's really important.
Yeah.
They will slow the progression somewhat. So say, and by slowing the progression, I mean that in some instances, such as acetylcholine esterase inhibitors, and they all kind of, there isn't any one that's considered better than the other. They can slow it. So instead of getting a 12-month decline in a year, someone might get a 10-month decline in a year.
Yeah.
So it's very modest. And a lot of people think, oh, we'll just put them on meds, but the meds have side effects themselves. And then if the patients are on other medications, they can interact. The other medications can make the Alzheimer's worse, or the dementia worse, or the confusion worse. So I just think it's really important to bear in mind that medicines are not the answer, and they're certainly not the only answer. You need to take the holistic side of it in place. And just to kind of say it out there right now, so we're not like kind of discussing loads about it, but I jotted down a few notes about the importance of you know, once someone has had the mini mental state examination, which is the examination to determine how severe their Alzheimer's is. It's scored 1 to 30, or in some instances they can do it 1 to 100. That's just a different one. Whether it be mild, moderate, moderately severe, or very severe. You know, you're talking about asking people, seeing, you know, can this person childmind? Can this person cook for themselves? Can this person toilet themselves? It's those, you know, you need to kind of bear in mind there is a sliding scale of how severe the disease is. But if you take into account the fact that, so drugs, they can work moderately, or modestly. But a routine is very important for people. So getting up at the same time every day, no napping in the afternoon can help with sleep then later on. So going to bed at the same time every day, a reduction in naps, proper meal times, exercise, meeting people. Meeting people is so important. When you think about it, the amount of people that are alone suffering, it can be very, very isolating for them. But if they go to a day centre where there's other people there, where they're stimulated, it's all about being stimulated. You know, I would know people that would have been avid readers, read all kinds of books, and with the dementia, they just can't read a book. Now they can function in life, yet they can mind, they can still look after themselves, but they can't sit down and read a book. So what can they do? Sit and watch daytime TV. It's all about stimulating them, and that's where the carer comes in, or the family comes in. And unfortunately, sometimes with people, there's maybe only out of 5 or 6 children, there may be only one that actually steps up and helps or can help. Other people have other things that they're looking after in that, but it is important that there is a security blanket around this person, whereby they're getting lots of stimulation and lots of outside help. But the problem is that it often falls on 1 or 2 carers, and that can be very, very mentally taxing on them.
I think, Laura, and that's where I would say from our personal perspective, you know, I think it takes a community to look after someone with dementia and Alzheimer's, because say with my mum, I have 2 sisters at home. I go down at weekends, we kind of split it between us, but we also have other people who come in and look after our mum. And on top of that, before COVID, she would have gone to like community groups. Like, she loved her singing. Singing is a great thing. Like that, like you say, the social interaction is so important.
It is, because the cognition can decline even more if they're not being stimulated. You know yourself, if you leave a baby and you don't stimulate a baby, they're not going to learn. It's a very similar situation. Sure, we ourselves, we thrive with human interaction. Now, someone that is suffering from dementia, their train of thought may not be perfect, and they may be quite difficult to talk to, but just that social interaction with you can really help them on a day-to-day basis. And I think that it's really important to bear that in mind. But we don't just need to mind this patient, we need to mind the carers, and that's where I think we fall down. Because it can be very stressful on carers. And then just a point to note as well that a lot of people don't know about, sometimes you can get an increase in symptoms, and it can be due not to a worsening or a decline in the disease. It can be due to, say, a UTI infection. Can cause a serious amount of confusion in someone that suffers from Alzheimer's or dementia, and that can lead to precipitation of the illness being considered to be worse, but it actually isn't. Once they get their antibiotics for the UTI, then they can improve dramatically. So I suppose it's about carers being made aware of that also.
I that would be a huge one with us. My mum has only 1 kidney, so she's prone to, so she's on a continuous antibiotic for her kidneys, and that's her. If any time you see a sharp decline in her memory or concentration, the first thing we'd look at is the kidneys.
And that's so important as well, even in people that are just beginning, they've just been diagnosed, or pre-diagnosis. If you see an increase in confusion, it can be to do with the UTI. But as we get older, naturally, we can suffer from more UTIs. If we are suffering from a little bit of leakage or incontinence, or prone to them as well, or women certainly with the lack of estrogen can get them too. So I think it's really important that carers know that as well, and they have the basics, not the basic knowledge as to how to kind of watch out for those symptoms.
I think one of the key things that I would see, I've got a lot of friends at the moment who are in similar situation to me, aging parents, dementia, and so forth. And one of the things that I think can really help is looping in with your community service as early as you can. So choir, it's like the support groups, it's like the singing groups, because like the things I've learned over the last year through the local community groups, that's where you get a lot of the knowledge. And it's even like the likes of the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, there's fantastic resources there. If we just, in hindsight, I wished we tapped in a lot earlier. But I think we probably didn't know, Laura, we were probably, because you kind of do put a certain amount down to aging, it's only kind of when you go through the official testing and so forth and kind of they look at memory that, but I would say the minute you have an inkling, is you need to move on it. And I think the other thing is loop into as much services as you can, and you really don't
There's another one, understanding together, that's very good actually. That's important too. So understandingtogether.ie is a good one as well. I was just going to run through, I just jotted down some of the behavioural and psychological symptoms of dementia, because some people don't know what they are. So I was just going to say, so the psychological symptoms would be agitation, shouting, repeated questioning, change in eating habits, aggression, wandering, apathy, and sleep disturbance. So someone might become a bit agitated, and sometimes the most mild-mannered person can become a bit ratty. And the term grumpy old man or grumpy old woman. that can be the start of it.
Yeah.
I suppose it's just to kind of bear in mind that when a person's personality begins to change,
That's it.
it's very difficult for their loved ones to accept that.
Yeah.
Then some of the psychiatric symptoms are depression, anxiety, paranoia, delusions, and hallucinations, which are usually auditory, which they usually hear. So
Yeah.
that's a vast array of behavioural and psychological symptoms that people can experience, and that's only behavioural and psychological. There's the other symptoms about not being able to look after themselves, the not eating, the incontinence, and that. So I think it's just very important to bear in mind that if you do have an elder person that is in your life, and their personality starts to change somewhat, that could be a sign. So you just kind of need to mind them and see, because the earlier the intervention, the better. And the intervention, I don't necessarily mean has to be pharmacological. It doesn't have to be drugs, but it can be getting them the supports, getting them to the daycare centres, getting them stimulated.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you kind of have to. We're certainly coming at it from all different angles. Medication, so like food, everything with my mum, but I think if you get a hint of something, jump on it, because it definitely, in terms of when they can start the memory tablets and things like that, it's just the sooner the better, and I think unfortunately at the moment, like we would find, like our mum loves the singing every week, going to the choir, and she misses that big time. But what we would do is now she'll watch mass on, if it's on the radio, she'll listen to it, or on TV. So it's trying to keep her engaged in all the things that they enjoy. So like if they like singing, maybe just have something that you can bring up on your computer, or something that they can sing along to, play the radio, play music. I think anything just to keep the mind.
Yeah, someone just wrote there, what can we do to help stimulate a person at home who's high risk of COVID and can't really get out? Yeah. So, I think that like they actually can get out so long as they stay away from other people. Like that's the reality, and that's what we're saying. And we know that social isolation can be very hard for someone, and certainly if someone's staying indoors. So get them out. Get them out for a walk on the pier or around the park or something like that. They don't have to go up and hug people or stay too close to people, but I think getting them out is really important. And then the stimulation that we're talking about, the music, the radio, really important. The talking to them. If they have grandchildren, like, they can be with them now, but at a safe distance, or certainly send them videos. Grandparents love grandchildren, and it's like, when you have an old dog and then you introduce a new puppy to it and it gets a new lease of life. Like children bring something to older people that just we can't, and it's that kind of joie de vivre that kiddies have. So I think that can be really important, and the way like animals as well can help them. I'm not suggesting you buy someone that has Alzheimer's a dog, because they won't be able to look after. But if you have a dog, bring your dog down, let them pet the dog. Those kind of simple things can really, really benefit them. So
and even jigsaws are a great one, Laura. One of my nieces would bring in a jigsaw and make a jigsaw with my, that's a great thing. Because I'm not talking about 1,000-piece jigsaw.
No, simple jigsaws. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Is a really, really good thing. The other thing that
colouring in, if their dexterity is okay, colouring in just or something like that. But generally, you can't just sit them down and leave them with something. It's that human interaction that they need. They need your time, and that's where the carers come in, and the minding the carer comes in as well, because we're all busy. We all have other we all have lives outside of minding people as well. So it's just important that you try and pull in the supports, like what you've said. But I think, are you going to save this as an IGT video? IGT, and then put in all the supports that people have under. And I'll comment in it as well about that. I was just saying about I think we touched maybe on the role of the pharmacist. Maybe would you like me to do that? So I jotted down a few thoughts as well, in case, because these IGTVs sometimes I get a bit distracted and I forget to say something, so I jotted it down.
That'd be brain fog.
That's it, exactly. So I think that people don't realise maybe how much information that they can get from their pharmacist, and certainly I know with COVID we were kind of a bit not that we weren't available. We stayed open and we were available, but I suppose we were less inviting because with perspex screenings and stuff like that, but we still are available on the phone to talk, and you know, we still are available to talk one-to-one from people if, you know, we're keeping a distance, people are wearing the mask and something like that. But pharmacists can bring a lot of help and advice to a patient, and we're readily accessible. So this is what I wrote down. We can give medicines information to them, their carers or the healthcare professionals, so we can certainly do that. We can pack their medicines in a way that it makes it easier for them to take, and we can review their medication as well.
Do you put them in like the little daily packs that they know?
We can put them into weekly or daily packs. Now, if they're not phased by the doctor, there is a charge in most pharmacies now for them, because it just otherwise loss making, because it takes time, and also the plastic trays cost money. But I think it's a charge of about $2.50 per week usually, which is a tenner a month on top of whatever medicines charge that they might have. And that's for the company that I work in. I'm not sure about other pharmacies and what they charge, but I think they're all pretty similar. We can review the medication as well. Assessment and avoidance of potential drug interactions as well. So, you know, there would be cases where some drugs might work, you know, badly with others, and certainly if someone's experiencing psychoses or they're not able to sleep at night, we could certainly maybe, you know, give a little bit of advice there. Monitor compliance and provide memory aids as well, and the compliance that falls under, you know, the packing the trays for people. Advice on alternative medicines, so like the likes of ginkgo biloba, there has been clinical trials done to show that it improves circulation certainly, and it may help with that. And I know people do take it for brain health too. We can advise on formulation as well. So people that have swallowing difficulties might need to crush their medicines, but if the medicines are prolonged release, you need to be very careful about that. So we can give that kind of information if needed be. And then I suppose just signposting patients and carers to organisations, both local and national, for support and information. So utilise your pharmacist if you need to. It's really, really important, because we are there to help, and we generally love talking about drugs.
We know you do anyway. No, I think I so agree with all of that. And down home we've got a fantastic pharmacist who's nearly part family, I think, at this stage. But it is so important, because you do end up having a lot of questions, and every single person, I guess, is going to be different, right? You know,
absolutely,
and so forth.
Yeah.
So, okay, but can we talk a little bit about the carers and supporting the carers? And I think one of the things that I would say there, and I was just talking about it earlier on, was that I've come to this kind of, I guess, where I'm at, and I'll be talking about it a lot during the week, is that I know now I kind of have a duty of care to myself, to look after myself for the future. But I'm also looking at it in terms of I've got a duty of care to my family, to my kids, because if I need to do everything I can now to reduce my risk. Now, I'm not saying that from the perspective because my mum has dementia. I'm very much going on the perspective that 3 out of 4 dementia, Alzheimer's patients are women. So it's a disease that attacks women, unfortunately, more than it does men. So I think all of us need to be, you know, very aware, and the same goes for carers, because you've got a double burden in a way, in that you're caring for maybe an aged relative or a parent, and at the same time you really have to look after yourself.
Yeah, you do. Is it as high as 3/4 of dementia patients are women?
The US figures, yeah, wow. It's really, really high.
Is that also because women live longer though?
Well, no, I think they're saying by 2030, the age gap in terms of longevity, men and women, is actually going to be pretty much gone. There might be a few months a year, but that's continuously coming down, the age gap between men. Okay. So I think there is obviously a lot of conversation around the role of estrogen, which is what we'll be talking about on Wednesday with Dr. Mosconi.
I'll leave that to you, but I was going to say that, but you know, that's like 2 hours of a topic itself. Yeah,
that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, there's several factors at play. But I mean, I think you know, one of the big chunks that comes into it, I guess a lot of this would be a personal view, but there's research there as well. A lot of it is down to the fact that for the most part, women do end up as carers for whoever. You know, you're caring for your children, then it may be that you're caring for an aged relative, you know, a parent. And all of that comes with a burden. And all of those burdens, I guess, lead to an increase in kind of ongoing pressure and stress.
Stressors, and yeah, absolutely.
They're triggers
Yeah.
for the likes of dementia. It's
Yeah.
not to say you're definitely going to get it, but they're all they're all things you need to be very, very aware of. So that's where it's really important that carers really look after themselves, as well as obviously the role that they're doing as well.
Well, I think first and foremost, I would always say it's important to get enough sleep. Now, I'm saying that and I didn't get any sleep last night, but that's neither here nor there. Sleep is so important and it's so underrated, and I'm always saying it. Sleep, sleep, sleep. You know, I take sleep over food, if you could. But then you do need a really good diet, and you do need to exercise. And exercise can be, you know, exercise can improve so much because it gets the heart pumping, it also gets the blood flowing through the brain to everywhere in that way. So I think that's really important, and it's important that you need to schedule time out in your day. And I do it. I have kids and I'm busy and I work and I do all this, but I do make sure I get time in the day to myself. I think it's so, so important. So A, you need to sleep, B, you need to carve that time. And that time isn't selfish time. And I don't even call that me time. That's necessary time. Yeah. Because if I get that time, I'm a better mum, I'm a better wife, I'm a better, happier person. And you know, we have to stop being yes people as well. You know, even now with lockdown and everything, I've had so many texts from friends like wanting to meet up and stuff like that. And I can't spread, I'd love to meet them, but I can't spread myself that thin, you know? So you need to kind of prioritize. So yourself, first of all, because that's not being selfish. That means that you can mind your family or whoever you have, or just minding yourself is really important, whether you have a family or not. And then it's minding your family, and then it's minding your job, and it's all those things that come together, and not spreading yourself too thin. And I think that's where it comes, that's where I see carers not minding themselves, because they spread themselves far too thin, and they don't have any time for themselves, and they don't look after themselves enough. And then that's where the decline in their health can happen.
Yeah. And I think it's probably, it's fantastic if you have more people that you can spread the caring with. It's obviously much different if it's just one person. So, you know, I would definitely say to people, you know, God, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Even if it's cousins, you know, aunts, uncles, whoever, but if it's one person on their own, for definite, they're going to need help.
And then the carer societies and everything, the caring societies and everything as well, which we'll put down below in this. Listen, I can hear pandemonium going on downstairs. I told them to be quiet, but they're not, and I'm really distracted by them now. Is there anything else that you'd like to maybe touch on, or?
I can't hear them, Laura.
I know, but I can, and they're screaming now. I don't know what they're up to.
I understand. I think we've chatted really about what the key things we wanted to talk about. I would say for anyone listening to this, the key things I would say to you is, please do use your local pharmacist. Build up a rapport with the person.
That very much so. Well, you know,
is so important. And obviously, you know, look for the community support, not just for you as a carer, but also for the person who you're looking after. And you know, over the week we'll be talking a lot more. You know, Laura has alluded there to a lot of the lifestyle tips that you need to be looking at in terms of minding your brain. And I think, you know, we'll talk about all of them in more detail, but it's I can't impress how important it is to strike while the iron's hot. So strike now.
And just as well, just like I jotted down a few statistics just to end on these. There's about 55,000 people currently living with dementia in Ireland. 55,000, which is projected to increase to 113,000 by 2036. Okay, at least 40% of those people are living in residential care. So that means 60% aren't. Okay, and at least 18% of acute hospital beds are occupied by people with dementia.
18%. Wow.
Yeah. So it complicates admissions, it delays discharge. There's a whole, you know, plethora of reasons behind that. The estimated cost of dementia care is 1.6 billion 1.69 billion per annum, plus the social cost for families and carers. And that was
Yeah.
back in 2012, so I'd say it's even more now. It contributes to a greater number of years spent living with a disability than stroke, cardiovascular disease, or cancer in people of greater than 60 years. And that's a stat for the WHO. So I love my stats, as you know.
You're great for the stats.
We leave in the stats.
We love a stat.
Love an L stat.
Oh God, wow. God, they're huge figures, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. So it's just kind of worth bearing in mind that you know, it is something that we really need to be more aware of, but we need to probably campaign for as well, because we're only getting older. And on that note, I really have to go because there is absolute, I don't know what they're doing to each other.
Thank you, Laura. I'll post the resources later on. And
okay, great. Lovely talking to you, Catherine.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.